Yes, yes.
All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Future Ready Co-ops, a summer tech series. This is something really unique that we are doing as a three-organization partnership with Digico Global, Food Co-op Initiative, that's me, and Nova Cooperation Works. And we're really excited that you're here today to have this conversation. This is the first of three conversations that we're going to be having about the future of co-ops and being technologically ready on many different levels. And this conversation actually came out of a Food Co-op Initiative's FCI Live series in 2026, where we invited Digico to host two sessions. One was a panel on AI and a cooperative future, and then a more instructional session on thinking about resilient digital infrastructures, which is something a lot of us as food co-ops struggle with, and that we have a difficult time with understanding where does technology fit into our work, how do we utilize it, and so that looked more at the technological side, and then there was this panel discussion about how does AI fit into our cooperative future? How do we feel about that cooperatively? What can it do for our food co-ops? And there was such a response to this conversation. People were so I hope we're going to put the links in the chat as we get going for you to go check those out as well. But there was such a response to this conversation, and there was a request to keep it going. So we are very honored and excited that Digico and Novaworks have agreed to continue the conversation for the food co-op industry throughout the summer. And so that's going to look like three different sessions, one in June, one in July, and one in August. And they're going to each be a little different. The Tech and Ethics Cooperative Values panel that you're at today, this is a panel discussion about looking at the cooperative values, the cooperative ethics, and how do we feel about that in relationship to AI, both its utilization and its impact on our communities? And so this is going to be a far-reaching panel discussion, and we hope you will throw in your thoughts and questions and comments in the chat. And then in July, we're going to dig a little deeper on what do we mean by digital readiness at food co-ops. Some ideas were brought up again in the last sessions that we did to part of FCI Live, where people are like, oh, wow, like this is helping me get my head around, is my food co-op digitally ready on security levels, on technology levels, in so many ways. We're going to dig a little deeper, so it's more of an instructional session. And then the last one is going to be something that we've never as FCI hosted before, but I'm really excited about, and this idea came from Digico, which is the Co-op Voices GM Roundtable discussion. And I'm gonna turn this over actually to Ahzjah from Digico to just give us like a little insight into what this is gonna be, because it's something really unique.
Sure. Thank you, JQ. Hey, everybody. Yeah, really excited about that because, in the co-op space, listening is something that we sort of have to practice and learn how to do. It's a muscle, right? And so we want to listen. We want to listen to the different folks that are a part of the ecosystem, and part of the leadership roles, of course, is a GM. Sort of the buck stops and starts there on the operational side, working with the board, of course, and the member owners. And so we want to start there and just sort of hear from GMs, what's on their minds, what are they thinking about, what are they concerned about, what would they like to see, how are they already innovating, what are they most afraid of, or what's the biggest challenges, all the things. And so we thought we could start there and just really get a really good sense of what is happening. So we sort of have this collective mind meld of everything. And then it helps us to figure out how to move next. So that's what we're thinking about, JQ. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that little intro to it. I thought it was such an exciting idea. There was a conversation, and again, in FCI Live, there was a conversation happening around tech. There was also a conversation happening around GM burnout, and both became really like table-wide conversations that I think was cathartic for all of us, as well as helped us pinpoint like what do we need to talk more about. So I was really excited when it was suggested maybe we could go this direction. With the last one in the series. So I'm going to get some of those links in the chat for y'all, but I'm going to turn this panel over to Ahzjah.
All right. Thanks again, JQ. Hey, everybody. So excited to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this second session in this Future Ready Co-op series. AI, ethics, and cooperative values is where we're starting today. I want to also say another thank you to JQ, Mercedes, and the FCI family for partnering with us doing the P6, and also Novaworks, Digico Partners, in presenting this series, and for all the support for us to begin and sustain this conversation, which we think is so critical, with the co-op community and for those others who are part of the full ecosystem. So some of you know me. For those of you who don't, I'm Ahzjah Simons. I'm one of the co-directors for Georgia Cooperative Development Center and founder of Digico Global Business Solutions. I'm a former member services manager, GM, as well as NCG board member. So I've been in this space a little while and working at the intersection of cooperative ed, digital infrastructures, media, and community-centered innovation. And the work is focusing on designing resilient systems, and it's sort of evolving as the needs change. And so really excited about how we can meet the needs of the cooperative ecosystem specifically. I'm joined today by Ramon Simpkins, who is CEO of Outpost Natural Foods Cooperative. He serves as Chief Executive Officer of Outpost Natural Foods Cooperative, a $50 million community-owned grocery retailer in the Midwest. We're also joined by Amber Jones, who's co-founder of Ease Cooperative and project steward for Baltimore Roundtable for Economic Democracy, or BREAD, as they're also known. She's also the steward for the Baltimore Roundtable for Economic Democracy and founder of Namberjo Consulting. 14 years of experience across the nonprofit, finance, and community development sectors. We're also joined today by Rickie Bailey, co-partner of Johnny, who joined us in the last panel. He serves as VP of Operations for Novaworks and wears a lot of different hats as well. Novaworks specializes in IT, cybersecurity, digital infrastructures for mission-driven organizations specifically. And Rickie's work centers in CRM design, implementation, workflow, and a host of other things. Johnny Church's partner may or may not be joining us today. He's going to see if he can chime in, and he's the CEO of Novaworks as well. So I guess we can get started. Welcome again. And so today we're moving beyond questions like what is AI and some of those basics and which tools we should use. We explored a little bit of that last time. Instead, we really want to focus a little bit more on who's benefiting, who's governing it, can we govern it, how do we do that, and how do cooperative values better shape its use if you're going to use it at all. And we know that cooperatives have always been about people, participation, democratic ownership, and a host of other 10 values, and community benefit. And so as AI rapidly reshapes how organizations are operating, communicating, making decisions and workflows, that maybe the responsibility lies with us to help shape what that really is going to look like and how where technology can serve people rather than the other way around. That's sort of where we're centered. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with our panel. Also be thinking about what is one thing that you would hope to stop doing, start doing, or thinking about differently after this conversation? And if anyone is able to chime in on the chat, as we're asking questions, feel free to chime in there as well. What's on your minds and other things or other areas that you might want us to talk about in the future, even for a session 2, giving us a little bit more to focus on that's really centered around what's on your minds and hearts and in your cooperatives as well. So feel free to just throw that in the chat, right, JQ? Okay, very good. All right, so let's see. Hang on one second. All right, so we're gonna start with Rickie. And so, Rickie, where are you seeing AI create the most meaningful value right now beyond the hype?
I honestly, in dealing with AI, from a cybersecurity standpoint, we're seeing AI benefit, as a tool, right? As we all know, AI has been integrated at a super rapid rate within these last, especially 5 years. I'll even say the last 3 years have been the most critical. And so we've seen, examples of AI being, utilized within even a cooperative space as helping, structure a company's, data, helping, secure information, helping build, things for, different types of businesses, creating plans for nonprofits, so AI has definitely been utilized, in certain spaces or, for certain businesses as, a tool that's really helping propel, not only the professionalism, of a company, but just helping, gather information as well and assisting companies with, just helping them branch out, gain more followers or gain more, attraction to their business, helping formulate, again, the infrastructure of a company. And, and also assisting within that CRM space as well, and helping organize, data, like I said before. So there's a lot of different things that, AI is being used for. And I think now, because of the information that we have on AI and how it's being utilized or how it can be utilized, that's what's assisting businesses more than ever, nonprofits more than ever, on getting and gaining that advantage, um, of being a business or a nonprofit. So that's really where I'm seeing it.
I saw a couple popping up in the chat. JQ, can you share some of what we saw there?
Yeah,
Answers to that.
absolutely. I think mostly people are introducing themselves. So we're seeing a lot of introduction, but wellness app utilizing AI is someone to share talking about their co-op and how they're utilizing a wellness app that has AI involved.
Okay,
So
nice. All right, thank you for that. Okay, and let's go to Amber. What questions around ownership, inclusion, and power should cooperative leaders be asking as AI adoption accelerates?
So I think it's important as we are looking at various tools, whether they're tools that we're currently using that are changing rapidly with updates and AI assisted automations, as well as tools that we may be exploring, maybe things that we know other folks are utilizing or that have been recommended. It's really important to in thinking about like ownership, inclusion, and power to consider, do we have the necessary information to make a well-informed, high-quality, values-aligned decision around this particular tool or this particular policy if you're looking to create a policy around your usage of various tools. And so I think it's really important to one, give ourselves the amount of time necessary to make those decisions, to give ourselves the amount of information necessary. So have we had conversations with everyone that will be impacted by this? Do we know what our members' thoughts and opinions and concerns are as it relates to this? We wouldn't want to like jump the gun on adopting something and then have things that we could have anticipated as unintended consequences of making that decision. So it's very important to just to do the necessary research and due diligence. And one of the groups that has been investing a lot into helping folks make informed, sometimes complex decisions. Aorta, they recently released a zine that kind of shares in detail their process around decision making, especially when it's a complex decision. And given, just some of the sentiments and concerns and realities around AI and how it's impacting, our society and our work, I think it's very important to leverage tools and frameworks that allow us to think through more complex decisions. So I'm actually sharing the link in the chat. This is a Creative Commons resource, so you can share it with your co-op if it benefits you. But just thinking about even how we need to make the decision before we make the decision based
Mhm.
on, like I said, how many people does it impact? What is at stake if we don't make, the best decision possible, with this particular tool selection or policy adoption. So it's just important to make sure that we're asking ourselves enough questions even around the assumptions or beliefs that we already have. Some of the things that we may have internalized as messages is an outside pressure that isn't real, but is kind of being generated by, culture or trends or, folks who may not share our values and principles and what they're saying is necessary. Is it being driven by people who have something to gain? by driving us towards a certain decision. So just taking the time to unpack the messages even that we've internalized around, what is even needed for us to be successful, productive, competing with the market, those types of things. And really, it's something to consider on a case by case basis, looking at, what are your mission, your values, what's most important to you and your cooperative and your members. Um, who is the community that you're serving? What is of highest concern to them? So taking those things into consideration, because it's not going to be the same conclusion that every co-op is going to reach, depending upon how they've kind of made sense of who they are and who they serve, and what's most important in the work that they're doing. So I think what's key is that regardless of what tools you're utilizing, you don't feel like the tools are controlling you, but you are still, as the members, as the stewards of that cooperative, owning the processes. You're aware of how these things work, how the information is being utilized. Like, do you fully own the information that you are putting into these tools? If not, what are the allowed uses of the company that developed the tool, and what are their values? What are their beliefs? What do they care about? What are they concerned about? A lot of times, if you do just a little bit of research into the founders, the owners of the company, or just their website and how they talk about themselves and what's most important to them, those things will be revealed to you. So yeah, but the main thing is that we take the time to do the necessary diligence to make sure that we can live with the decisions we're making, and that if we are implementing tools, we are being intentional about that implementation. We're configuring them in ways that align with our needs and our values, that we're not being wasteful. Like, we're not just like chasing a trend and like, oh, this would be a cool thing to adopt, but we don't even have the capacity to implement it effectively, to do the necessary configurations to utilize it well. So then we're essentially like wasting, cloud storage space and like potentially having impact on the environment for something that we're not even leveraging. So I just think it's, very important in this day and age, because of how rapidly things are changing, that we're taking those things into consideration before we move forward with adopting things.
All right, very good. Thank you for that, Amber. Very thorough. And you dug in there. I'm thinking about, I have a question for Ray, but before that, I know that, Ray, if you're able to speak, you're doing some work on the governance side and or policy side, which is one of the things that Amber brought up. And talk a little bit about the policy work that you're doing with respect to AI, creating AI governance policy, and what are some of the specific areas that is driving how you design that operationally and maybe at the board level, or all the different pieces, and that Amber is sort of outlining, if you can hear me and if you can answer.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me a little bit.
Yes.
But we I was talking to my tech guy, and we came to the agreement that we don't have a policy for AI right now, and what's permissible and what's not permissible, from the standpoint of what folks can use. You start really getting into AI, AI software that will respond to you, for instance, Copilot, for example, if those use Copilot. And I use Copilot sometimes myself, but Copilot can now, there's a new version of Copilot that can now.
Uh-oh, we lost you, Ray. We can't hear you, Ray. Give him a second. Okay, we'll wait for Ray to come back. I think what he was talking about was the agentic version.
It takes out the human center part of it. It takes out the human side of things, and how you are able to respond and think in real time and stuff like that. So we're in the beginning stages of really outlining what that policy should look like across the board for all of our staff, so that if you decide to use AI, you're using it as a tool and not the end all be all. If that makes sense.
Yes, and we lost you for a minute, Ray. So you're talking about the agentic version of Copilot. Is that what you're talking
Yes,
about?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. And are you mostly looking at the I guess the operational side or the co-op aspect, governance? What aspects are you looking at in
It's
your
just
policy right
operational.
now? Okay.
It's the operational side.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Very good. All right. Rickie, what excites you most about AI potential, but what concerns you most when the governance and the policies and those things that Ray is talking about that he's working on and some of the aspects that Amber brought up, if those are not there, if it's adopted without those sort of guardrails, what concerns you most, even from cyber aspect or other aspects?
Well, yeah. Well, going back to what excites me again, just the potential that AI has, as far as being that tool, the capacity at which, data can flow, be retained, and be utilized is, um, it's crazy nowadays, but for the most part, what also excites me too is that AI is able to be governed. When utilizing AI, we have the ability to think for it, as well to give it those prompts, to give it exactly what it needs, So, here at Novaworks, for example, like we do operational security. So AI is like fantastic at spotting cyber threats even before they happen, So by using AI to lock down that sensitive data, we're able to protect the privacy of, our clientele, and even, some of the families that we have involved with them. So that's what's exciting. But the challenging part, again, is that governance aspect and also leaning on it too much. Because there is that dangerous side of AI that you don't want to go from owning it to it owning you. And that's what we're seeing a lot within the space, talking about nonprofits as well, is they're kind of benefiting so much that they just go to AI for everything. Oh, create my whole plan for the week, like the structure and the infrastructure, it gets a little weak. So that's where, on my end, I'm seeing, that danger when it comes to AI, the governance, the human touch, because what we have is originality as human beings. We have a code as humans that uh, when we touch something, it's natural. And AI is very robotic. AI is very mechanical. So the problem, that I'm seeing is that, we're utilizing AI to the point to where it's literally replacing a human staff, and that's dangerous because you're creating so much of a discord now, within the human population, within businesses, within nonprofits, and there's a loss of that feel, there's a loss of that touch and that reality that we face every single day. Even the potential what ifs are being lost. Even uploading, too much data within these systems, something can get leaked. So there's a mass amounts of liabilities that are starting to erupt, because AI, and even as Ray was saying, they don't have, companies don't have policies facilitated around AI, and that's what makes it challenging. Even in the space of cybersecurity where we're at, that's the number one thing. Like, hey, we need some watch over our systems, over our AI and how we utilize it. Um, and that's what we do is we go and we try to teach, how to do that, how to properly govern it. So again, I can go an hour,
Gotcha.
on that. But yeah, so that's just just being able to have that governance. But again, the dangers is how, exactly how much governance are you having over AI? If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
We have
I remember.
a little something in the chat that I thought I'd bring in, which kind of touches back to, Amber, your work and, people. So the question is, I'm, starting to think through my footprint. The using all this technology has a real footprint, which was kind of lost on some of us, in the beginning. So I don't want to blindly be contributing to the need to build data centers, just so our organization can go paperless. I remember when I thought scanning forms was the best thing ever into the cloud, and now I'm thinking about, there's consequences to that, and curious if, there are solutions that allow me to, allow our co-op to have less of a footprint. She brought up external hard drives, but I think that that's a aspect a lot of people want to speak to. There were a lot of thumbs up to her comment, and I wondered if we could talk about that a little.
Sure. Let's go to Rickie. Not sure if Johnny's on, but either one of you, I know that you can probably weigh in on that. And I saw something yesterday too that I can share. But Rickie, anything you want to share there on JQ's question?
Reframe the question. I'm sorry, or repeat it.
So there was a comment in the chat from an attendee saying they're now realizing the ecological impact of going paperless, and they're looking
Oh
for
yeah.
tools to do things that wouldn't have such an impact for their co-op and yet meet their needs.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. Again, it like I said, it goes back to who do you have on that cyber side to help facilitate your data, for example. And even on a broader scale, when using AI, like um, I just saw an article not too long ago about how it's even affecting the environment. Like for example, there was a lake in Phoenix or around or near Phoenix that was completely dried out because of the utilization of water that they have to use in order for the AI systems to operate at full capacity. And the lake is completely dried up. The fish have literally died. It's a sad story. So yes, and we're not thinking about stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, AI is great, when it comes to speeding up the process, but it's also hindering and hurting our literal ecosystem, our environments. Um, I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Is there any thinking on like alternate tools or ways that, like I think what Jennifer was talking to is like, we've all been going paperless, scanning all our documents into the Google Cloud or whatever cloud you're using. And
Mhm,
like, is there thinking on alternatives? She was talking about hard drives, like ways that we
mhm.
can actually have less of an impact. Thank you. Amber's got a link here for mention
Yeah,
environmentally conscious cloud storage to companies. So I'm gonna make sure.
yeah.
Thank you, Amber. Yeah, I saw something a couple days ago where it was like an alternative around data centers,
Mhm,
external data centers, but that there was technology being developed to work in concert with our electrical boards in our homes. And
yes.
the company that actually makes that electrical board, there's a way that we would have more of an internal data center
Hmm.
that would be working within our space versus them having to create these external large data centers that everything would be feeding off and damaging the environment. But this would be we would be sort of powering our own use of it. All right. And
Yeah.
even companies and other, buildings would be powering their own use of it. And so it'd be more encapsulated and contained versus this external footprint. So I thought that was fascinating and wanted to hear more about that. That was one thing that stood out for me. But I know there's I don't know all of the pieces, but I think that should be part of our work going forward. If we hear more of the questions like that, to help us drive what we're researching more of. But the innovation is off the charts. Like it's whatever people are thinking about or concerned about or interested in, somebody's working on it.
That's right.
And so, but you don't hear a lot about it, right? So I do think that could be part of our ecosystem responsibility as well, to make sure that we're harnessing and collecting all of that as we create what we want moving forward and building some of these systems. Thank you for that, JQ. Anything else interesting in there?
Just that people were interested in the link to the article you were discussing. I don't know if you have it, but if you have it, we can send it out to registrants afterwards.
Yeah, and I can do that on the other piece that I saw. breaker system data centers. All right, very good. So I think that might be some of what I was going to ask Ray if he's able to answer. How do you think AI could?
Ray had to step out, so
Oh, he did.
he is done now.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, just in general, how I think some of what we were talking about touched on this, but other ways that AI could strengthen or weaken member trust, and our culture as a whole, which of course is about our values and our principles, the self-help, the self-responsibility, the democracy, equality, equity, solidarity, volunteerism, education, caring for others, accountability, transparency. I think those get a lot of the play, the honesty, transparency, accountability when you're talking about AI. But if you think about some of the values specifically, are there other ways that you feel that AI could strengthen or weaken member trust in cooperative culture as it relates to those particular values? And that anybody can jump in on that one.
I guess I can share this, but quickly piggybacking on the last question about tools. If you're trying to think about tools that are designed, like by design, more conscientious about the environmental impact or about privacy and security, looking at tools that are owned by companies, developed by companies based outside of the US because of the current regulatory environment. They tend to have more stringent requirements. So like any countries that are subject to GDPR, compliance, for example, any countries, I would say a lot of countries in the European Union, like if you're looking at tools developed by companies from any of those countries, by default, they have stricter requirements in many cases. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But in terms of like the principles and values and how they're potentially impacted by AI usage, the particular principles that come to mind for me are things like democratic member control. Are we letting the tools make decisions for us that typically we would make ourselves? And if they are, like, did we design the process and the prompts and the inputs that determine how that decision's made? Are we monitoring to ensure that it's in alignment with the decision that we would make based on whatever parameters we've set for ourselves, which also speaks to autonomy and independence. Are we creating a dependency unintentionally, unnecessarily, that's diminishing our autonomy as a cooperative? Also think about education, training, and information. Like, are we utilizing tools as a shortcut or workaround to investing in the education, training, and information sharing? That is, essential to us, being able to, share knowledge, transfer information, make sure that our members are, able to scale up and aware of how we are approaching our work and how we're thinking about it. And then cooperation amongst cooperatives. Are we missing out on opportunities to collaborate with other cooperators who have skills in the areas that maybe we are replacing with AI tools? And how is that impacting the ecosystem overall? Is it necessary for us to make that concession, or could we consider, if we are creating efficiencies and automations in other areas, how we can then reinvest that either in our members or into other cooperatives that are part of our community? And then just overall concern for community. Someone mentioned the impact of data centers, and whether that's our local community and how we're being impacted by that, or neighboring communities, our world overall. Like, we all share this planet, and so we're all impacted by some of the environmental concerns that data centers are raising. And so again, if we are leveraging tools, if we are using them, are we using them efficiently? Are we using them effectively? Are we using them unnecessarily in some cases because we haven't taken the time to configure them with that intention and that oversight? So those are the things that come to mind for me.
All right, very good. Thank you, Amber. Rickie, do you have anything to add there, or should I move on to the next question?
No, she hit the
Yeah.
the nail on the head perfectly. I think the only thing I would just add is when, working as a nonprofit or working as a, co-op or in that space, um, I believe that the question at the top should be, like I said, just that policy. How do we create the policy? What should be implemented in that policy? And the question being, when do we utilize AI and when do we not? And I think just that, starting with that question alone will help the navigation of AI tremendously.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and it makes me think about, I know even with the policy that Ray spoke about, he's focusing on the operational side, right? And then we know with consumer cooperatives, we have three organizations. We have an operation, we have a cooperative association of people, and then we have what it makes up together, the store and all the other pieces. And so, there's definitely different considerations for when you're talking about operations, and then when you're talking about the co-op side and the relational aspects. And I think that's where more of sort of the principles and values come in when you're talking about how you're relating to people, and are you building trust? Are you diminishing trust by that decision you made, or whatever the case is? So I think that's the extra work that we have to do as cooperators, is really put both of those hats on and think through those pieces that you're mentioning, Rickie, and really just figuring out where to draw those ethical boundaries. And some of it may be, I mean, do you all think maybe some of it's just practice? I mean, are we going to mess up? Probably. So, what are y'all thoughts about that? Figuring
yeah,
it out as we go.
that's exactly what it is. Because I mean, again, if you completely neglect it, I mean, essentially you're going to be far behind. Because look at where we are. We're in 2026 now. I would say about 70 to 80% of businesses now have already implemented AI within their structures. So for you to just simply throw it out in the trash, I mean, hey, I will never tell anybody what to do, but just know you may be behind when it comes to, what type of business you are, what type of customers you're trying to allocate, what type of even, employees, what type of structure, you need facilitated. So again, yeah, like I said, it all goes back to that question of, when do we use it? When do we not? And, even include the who, the what, the how, of that
Mhm.
question as well.
Yeah.
Ahzjah, we
And
got a question in the chat. I wondered, someone's asking, has there actually been significant positive impact overall for co-ops that, so they have actually been discussed? Like, what are the benefits worth the environmental concerns? And I know you guys took this a little on in the previous, the
yeah.
FCI Live, so I will go find that again and relink it in case people didn't see the link at the beginning if you came in late. But I wondered if we can incorporate that a little, like, are people seeing actual concrete benefits that are weighing or that are overweighing those environmental concerns? And I know Ray spoke to that some, but I thought maybe we could bring that back into the convo since it was in the chat.
Yeah. Why don't we go with Amber, and then Rickie, if y'all have a response to that, I'll chime in post that.
Um, I think my co-op has seen we're in a balancing around that question. Like in some ways, thinking about things like access needs, if folks maybe are particularly challenged with doing certain tasks or remembering certain things, and automations that are assisted by AI make it easier to do those things, then that's a benefit. Or if it's a situation where, maybe we're weighing a lot of information and we are trying to like synthesize and like get to the core of, some of the things we could be pulling from that, it can make that process a little more efficient. But I think where we're definitely seeing some not so great outcome is like if AI is replacing, like fully replacing a thought process, like if we're utilizing it to replace having the necessary conversations to get to clarity. Um, if we are assuming that the result that it spits out is accurate, is high quality, is something that's actually useful without taking the time to like review it, to like check in to see if that makes sense. If we're not checking in to see, hey, is this a task that I really should be holding? Is this something that is like truly within my capacity? Like if AI produces a result that doesn't actually make sense or that isn't actually helpful, do I have the context to actually examine that? And if not, should I perhaps be leaning on other members or other supports to help assist with that task? Because a lot of times we may think that we're saving time by utilizing AI to take a shortcut, but then we realize, oh, this is actually not a high quality result. Now we have to redo the work, or we have to do all this like editing or revising, or someone used it to create a graphic that they didn't hand design, and so now we can't edit it. So like we, again, thinking about not just the impact on our work directly, but the environmental impact. Was it worth the impact on the environment to produce that result that's not ultimately usable? So I think we've definitely, just by seeing different examples of how maybe it has interacted with our work, or how people maybe leaned on it where it wasn't actually helpful, it's led us to really do a re-examining and assessing of like, when is it appropriate, and creating stronger policies and clarity around how and when folks are using it.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Anything you want to add, Rickie?
No, she hit it perfectly again.
Once again, I was going to say there's a sense that, AI, it's sort of it's a mirror. It's sort of a mirror for who humans are in some ways. You see lots of great things that it's allowing folks to do, whether it's, deep research on something. I mean, I used it the other day to deep research my mom's osteoarthritis and just a host of things, right? And other people are telling me like it's changing my life, like it's really helping them to do things and execute things. And then you also see that, there's lawsuits where people are, teenagers are following instructions from AI to commit suicide. I mean, the full spectrum is there, and it always is when it comes to humans, right? And I feel like it's mirroring the best and the worst of us, sort of like COVID did. And there's much more work to do in terms of finding out what the impact is, the positive and negative impacts, really studying what it is like in each city or town. Okay, here's the benefits, but what are the electric bills here? What is the environmental impact? What harm is happening, and really look at it. I think there's more work to be done. Basically, I think the jury's out on it, so that you can really balance it and see what the impact is equally, if you want to look at it that way, or which one's out. But right now I feel like it's off and running in one direction, right? For the most part. Yeah, let's jump in and use it, and that will have some catching up to do in terms of the harm. But I do know that there are lots of folks out there working on that side of things. And so it's a matter of us really getting that information and becoming a part of those initiatives, and supporting the momentum there, so that we can have a voice in it and lean in the direction that we want it to go, with our cooperative lens as well. So that's my 2 cents there. Well, let's see. We're at 10 of
We do have another
JQ.
question, which is very
Okay.
different from the other one. So I thought it was worthwhile. So
All
we
right.
talked about environmental impact. Is it really making a difference? One thing they've noticed about AI outside of security, privacy, environment is a huge issue is accuracy, and that it's been a big source of misinformation. And, thinking about that through the cooperative lens, just wondering if you guys had thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick. So I kind of see AI as a big library, right? You go in and you read what you want to read, you research what you want to research, and a lot of the times people are not taking enough time to try to counteract, if that makes sense, the research that they've recently just received, or provide a source, to agree with the information that has been inputted. So that's where in a human error, just as Ahzjah was saying, AI definitely is a reflection of who we are, how we think, how we operate, at what rate we're operating and thinking at the same time, and just utilizing, who we are. So we put ourselves in this bot or, AI, and we don't even think about, even the fact, for example, that there are AI options. You got Gemini, you got Chat GPT, you got, et cetera, et cetera. So, even just doing your research about the different AI options, is key and critical. But that's what's not being done enough from what I'm seeing on my side. Is what can I trust? What can't I trust? Why should I trust this? Why shouldn't I trust this? So just, provide me a source. You provide me another source that is opposite to that effect, and really just formulating your own conscious proper answer, I should say. So yes, we definitely need literacy when it comes to AI. But again, it starts with ourselves. How much are you willing to put in? Because I look at AI as an investment, right? Um, you know, anytime you invest, you go into something, you better do your research or else you're gonna lose all that money and quickly. you know,
Yeah.
so same thing goes with AI. Um, I feel people should treat it more as an investment and invest their time and even their resources. And if they don't have the time to do it, go ahead and you know get somebody that knows what they're doing. Invest in that person or that company that knows what they're doing. So that way you can be safe, you can be secured, you can not fall into the trap of becoming liable and getting sued because you mishandled or misutilized AI.
We have a comment about someone saying, I'm very surprised I'm not hearing more conversation about personal information privacy, especially with the rise of Palantir, which is a different angle as well on this conversation. So I thought I'd throw that comment out there from our attendees.
Anyone care to comment on that one?
I was going to defer to Rickie as the or Ahzjah as having more
Well, yeah.
experience.
In response to the personal information privacy, I mean, is there something specific that you want to know about it? Because again, like I said, that falls in line with more of the state, more of the laws, understanding your state laws, understanding your privacy rights. So for example, like a lot of our clients that we build websites for them, and even in doing that, we have to ensure that we are not violating those rights. So that's why it's important to have that governance behind whoever's utilizing AI to do whatever the case may be, and checking your work, quote unquote, so that way, nobody's personal information, personal data, anything is getting leaked. So like I said, it goes back into the data aspect of AI. I mean, and also, for example, like your Gmail account, right, or your whatever your email, making sure you're going into different systems and not giving AI access to everything. You know, so again, what are you allowing AI to do? How much control, how much power, how much impact do you give AI to have, in your personal life or your personal business endeavors? So yes, I agree. There should be even more conversation about it, within and outside of the U.S. TikTok was a very big thing, in violation of privacy rights. For example, what social media outlets am I supposed to sign on to? There's so many things dealing with that conversation of your privacy information. So yeah, it becomes it becomes really a battle of what are you feeding AI and how much access are you allowing it to have. And it, I mean, are you following the laws? And if you are following the laws and something gets leaked, now how do I handle that situation? Where do I go? What resources do I have to combat, that being leaked? So yeah, it definitely is a bigger conversation that needs to be had. But again, that's the part of a training. That's why training is important for businesses and nonprofits, for your AI, for your security, you have to go in to your settings. I just saw your comment. That's crazy. You have to go into, into your settings and literally make sure that you're doing your part because AI is not going to do that for you. So yes, practice does make perfect in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of my take on that.
Very good. Yeah, and I think it really is. I mean, we're leaning into the idea of building these systems, and of course, there's a ways to go on that as well. But I know that Johnny and Rickie and other co-op developers and folks that are developing technology have this in mind, creating some of the alternatives where we can at least feel a little bit better because we built it. And it's not to say that it won't be attacked, but we built it, right? So it has, what we want in mind and we feel safer. I think that the longer term answer is in building our own platforms and systems. But yes, in the meantime, we're using a lot of others, and we know the trust isn't there. So the extra onus is partially on us to, as Rickie said, take a little more responsibility, whether it's research or settings or really understanding the platform that you're using, and also having support. Getting coaches and other folks that are in the spaces to support and help you to understand, mentors in the space, to because they're out there to really help you understand better how to use and how to protect yourself and your organization as best you can. So I think that's the halfway that we can do on our own. So we have 3 minutes. I guess we're pretty much, should we be closing out? Do we have time for another question,
There's
JQ?
one last question. I
Okay.
think we could take that. I think there was a comment in the chat, just people, I think people are curious about the whole, like, yes, let's building our own and what it means for co-op infrastructure to
Hmm.
be built. Um, so maybe we can just take a minute and talk about what is going on with that. That, of course, it's not an answer this moment, that people are working on building on co-op owned infrastructure. And what does that look like?
Yeah. So, Rickie, you can jump in there too if you want, and then I'll jump in. Definitely, there's a lot of building happening, so I want to share that. If you can do that, summarize if you want to share some of that, and then I'll
Yeah,
piggyback. Okay.
yeah, I'll try to do it quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, very important to understand what building your own infrastructure looks like and how it works because again, you have to be mindful of who you're giving your rights to, who you're giving your data to, and us at Novaworks, we have a zero trust policy. When it comes to the Microsofts or the Googles. Even, I understand we're on a Zoom space, things of that nature. But what happens when those things shut down? You know, and so, again, what we do at Novaworks is we help facilitate the building of your own infrastructure, your own CRMs. We have built electronic health record systems for companies, for example, so that way they can just make sure they have their own stable and established, assets, for their organizations. So it's very important that I feel each and every organization should be building their own, or if not, looking towards that as at least a backup. If you want to trust Microsoft or Google, do it, but have a backup.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, just quickly, I know the development center, we recently did some work in building a marketplace It's sort of in the vein of platform cooperatives. If you followed Trebor, I believe, Scholes is his name. There's some TEDx talks out there, but he started to introduce the idea of the platform cooperative, which sort of takes what we do and allows for exchanges, money, relationships, all the things to happen on an online platform. And so that's kind of going to another level. There's lots of other new versions of that happening as well that I think that co-ops would really, really enjoy and appreciate in terms of more safety, more a way it's designed in a way that really benefits us and our principles and values. So maybe that's something that we could talk about, but we're building some marketplaces. Novaworks helped to do that. There are other cooperatives that are creating platform cooperatives, tech cooperatives, creative cooperatives, just you name it. They're starting to build, and sometimes they may start with something that's pre-made, like a Wix. I know North End Co-op does that, and then it may be sort of adapted. I know Rickie and Johnny have done some work there too. So it may be an interim platform that you can use where it's adapted to your organization. It's a canned operation or platform. There's CRMs that are out there that are really great to use right away, and then also building them. I know that's also something that we've built into our platform for Marketplace. Seam that's in our call is an amazing cooperative, platform cooperative. Is where I met Novaworks. Actually, big up to Tina Wright, Dr. Tina Wright there. And so it's happening a lot. So it's another area I'd say definitely research, talk to, co-op developers of, reach out to us, others in the space, and see what's already happening. And it won't seem so far away, right? Because it isn't. It isn't as far as we think. I'll stop there.
I want to just say the last comment I want to make sure that the whole team sees is this should be offered at the CCMA National Conference next year, this topic. Sorry,
Thank you for that.
you
Yeah.
keep hearing people want to have this combo. So I just want to thank again, and we're not done, but we're done for today. So I want to thank Digico and Novaworks so much for continuing this conversation when you guys responded so strongly to the first two earlier this year and said we just want to have this conversation. So thank you guys for today. But I put the links in the chat. Don't miss the July. There's going to be a July and an August gathering. The July one is going to be more looking at digital readiness. What we heard from the first sessions was also like, oh my God, goodness. Johnny, who couldn't join us today from Novaworks shared, do you have this in order? Do you have this in order? Should you even be thinking about AI yet? Like, how do you structure your tech? And a lot of us, small to mid-size, I used to be a GM of a small to mid-size food co-op, are going, I don't even know how to begin to think about that problem. And so they're going to go a little more and people like, tell us more. What should be structured? What should be laid out? How do we think about these things? So that's really going to be about digital readiness, really thinking through that question. And then we'll be back in August for our first ever roundtable. And this again was Digico's idea, very exciting to ask GMs and I think other department leaders from food co-ops. Let's talk about all this tech, AI, all this stuff that's getting threaded together. What do you need? What do you want to be discussing? What is the conversation? And I think you're going to find it a pretty amazing experience. We have seen this happen kind of spontaneously before, where a bunch of food co-op leaders have come to one of these sessions and kind of talk after we stop the recording. And just the things that generate, the thoughts that are generated from that, the understanding. And this is going to be a facilitated conversation with Digico and Novaworks about the issues that we're all facing. So I again thank you to everyone, and we hope you will join us again for the next two in the series.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, JQ, Mercedes.